Grand Rising. Happy Thursday. Manifesting Thursdays every Monday and Thursday, 9:30 a.m. I'm going to start today a little bit differently. Yes, we're going to talk about manifesting and ways to have our best life. But I want to talk about an experience that I had this week. Hi to everybody that's joining. Gary is in the house. I want to talk about an experience that I've had for several years that I was kind of unaware of. So, had a really, when I was on tour, at the very end of the tour, I was on tour with my ex. He was also working. My sister was on tour, the whole family. Hello from London. So when we were on tour, the end of the tour, when I was in Australia, my ex and I broke up. I was in a very, very dark place already, right? So I was dealing with a lot of depression issues. I was not eating hardly at all. I would eat maybe half of a rice cake a day. I was just out of my mind. And once him and I had broken up, it went into a serious downward spiral after that. So there was a lot, there was so much trauma there, not even from him, but from the breakup, from being so depressed, from being in so much fear of really not being well. I mean, like really, really depressed in a dark place. Like I didn't know if I was gonna make it, right? So when I was in that space, I developed this this trauma that would not leave me. So after I came off tour, I started going to a therapist out in LA, but I found a therapist that did EMDR therapy. Eye movement desensitization repetition, I believe it stands for. And it's a very simple thing. It's not reliving trauma or anything. It's literally eye movement stuff. So you follow your finger. It's just all this repetitive stuff and a lot of eye movement, and it is supposed to calm and restart basically the nervous system. So after I did that, I felt so much better. So I was like, oh, this is great. You know, I don't feel as I always constantly felt like something bad was going to happen all the time because your brain gets stuck in this trauma mode, basically. So I'm going to relate this to manifestation and our lives, because a lot of people during this last couple of years probably have PTSD from this experience. There was a lot of people that really lived in fear and felt like, I'm going to die from this, or, you know, my family member's going to die from this. A lot of people suffered from a lot of trauma throughout the last several years. So long story short, fast forward to Monday when I did this session with this energy healer. Now, I was friends with him on Facebook. I had no idea who he was. And saw on his page that he does all of this healing type stuff. And there were testimonials of people that are like, he is absolutely incredible, blah, blah, blah. So I just reached out to him. Just intuitively, I reached out to him. I'm like, I need to talk to this guy. So I talked to him on Sunday night. He was like, well, when, do you want to do a session this week, next week? I was like, can we do a session now? He's like, well, I have tomorrow open. So I said, okay. So I did this session with him. And as he's doing the session, he's saying to me, there's a lot of stuff going on in your mind. There's a lot of, you need clarity. There's a lot of, he didn't use the word trauma, but he's like, he used words something that there's stuff that needs to be healed, in your mind, energetically. It's there's stuff that's going on, you constantly worry, and you just have, this really overactive brain. I'm like, I do, but I just thought that was normal. That's just who I am as a person. And if anybody can relate to this, let me know. Okay, so Joe says that he identifies with this. So all this time, these past several years, or maybe even a lot of my life, it just maybe got worse from the traumatic experience that I had, that I was stuck in this mode. So after I did the EMDR, I was like, wow, I feel so much calmer. I feel so much better. But I probably could have needed or did need a lot more sessions than I thought that I did. And I've been these past, it's 3.5 years now that I've been walking around with this, what is known as trauma brain, right? So I'm just going to read a little bit, and then we're going to relate it to the mindset and everything else. Trauma can affect your brain's emotion networks to make you overact or underreact to stressful situations. So I will share his name. Yes. I'll put it down here right now. Listen guys, he's in Canada too. I cannot even explain to you that I am a different person from one session with him, and I just still don't understand it. I texted him yesterday. I'm like, wait, the conscious. I don't know if it's going to come up. Because I don't remember his whole, not the conscious pineal. Oh, here he is. Hold on, guys. I'm going to pin that. So I'm going to read this. Trauma can affect your brain's emotion networks to make you overreact or underreact. So for me, it was overreacting just to like random situations. And I'm just like, it didn't even dawn on me that any of this was even a thing until I did this session. Immediately after the session, he's like, how do you feel? I'm like, the feeling of, it's like nervousness. It's constant nervousness all the time. Constant nervousness all the time. And not because I'm a nervous type of person. Yes, Robert. Not because I'm a nervous type of person, but it was just something that, how my mind works. And I just didn't even think that it was an actual thing until he removed energetically whatever it was that was going on in my brain. So it literally immediately after this session, I'm like, the worry is gone. Like, what did you do? What did you do? The worry is completely gone. So it says trauma creates fixed neural networks that are isolated from other parts of your brain and resistant to change. Avoidance behaviors avoidance behaviors, if you're trying to avoid anything that makes you feel that nervousness, or you try to suppress the trauma, it doesn't work and can actually create more damage. So after we have any kind of traumatic experiences, yes, our brain actually does change. Because I was reading about this for my ex, because he was going through some really, really traumatic stuff. And so I was reading about it for him, but I never associated it with myself. And especially not in the last couple of years. It's just like we've all kind of been in survival mode, which is an actual part of trauma brain, or a part of that PTSD is being in survival mode that we don't even realize it, because there's always, and I'm sure that that's not a coincidence. There's all these different things being thrown at us constantly that do create trauma in the brain. It's all fear all the time. So when we're in that fear state, half of us probably don't even know that we have PTSD, that we have these reactive brains that are not normal for a calm and centered mind. I really didn't pay any attention to this until I had my session on Monday, and it all changed. And now I'm just like, hey, where's that nervousness feeling? Not because I'm looking for it, but because I'm so used to it being there that I'm just like, is it going to come back? Like, is it going to come back? And then all of a sudden my mind can just literally shift. So when I'm talking about this regarding manifestation, before I get into that, so the 3-part brain, let's just go over that. And this is not medical information or anything like that. This is me reading directly from a website. The 3-part brain, so you have the reptilian brain. The innermost part of the brain is responsible for survival instincts and autonomic body responses or processes. The mammalian, I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. The mid-level of the brain, this part processes emotions and conveys sensory relays. The neomalian, again, I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right. The most highly evolved part of the brain, this area outer controls cognitive processing, decision-making, learning, memory, and inhibitory functions. During a traumatic experience, the reptilian brain takes control, shifting the body into reactive mode, shutting down all non-essential body and mind processes. The brainstem orchestrates survival mode. During this time, sympathetic nervous system increases stress hormones and prepares to fight, flee, or freeze. So many of us are stuck, and just based on from conversations with people, are stuck in this mindset, myself included. But I didn't realize this until after this session. So when you're constantly in a state of fight or flight, like you're not going to be reacting to just any situation normally. Especially when it comes to relationships, that's very triggering for people. So if you have abandonment issues or anything that you had from childhood is really going to be magnified when your brain is in this trauma state. I'm reading this from, I literally just Googled it, so it's not anything like crazy. So this isn't from a book. I just Googled this information and just like looked for something that I can relate to. So when your brain is dysregulated, there's 4 categories of like PTSD symptoms. Intrusive thoughts. So that was a big one for myself. Mood alterations, shame, blame, persistent negativity, hypervigilance, exaggerated startle response, and avoidance of all sensory and emotional trauma-related material. And it doesn't have to be the trauma that you experience, but maybe in your current situation, it is if you are just seeing somebody, or if you're in a relationship, that's something from a past relationship can be coming up and really wreaking havoc on that certain situation that you're in. So when I was done the session with him, since I've been doing so much manifestation work, after the session with him, I was like, oh my God, these intrusive thoughts are just simply not there anymore. And I was just so baffled by it. Because I'm like, this is why I've been having such a hard time understanding manifestation. Because I'm like, the brain shouldn't be this hard. Like, it shouldn't be this hard to be able to, like, not manipulate my thoughts, but just to alter them, or just to be able to not have them be so intrusive. Like the lithium orotate was helping me tremendously, but I think it was only to a certain point, because if you have trauma brain, unless you revamp and heal that, and some of the methods that they talk about is through hypnosis, which I also have done, the hypnosis, the EMDR, there's a bunch of different ways that you can help heal or rebalance your mind. But this energy work was by far the fastest and most effective for me, because you guys know I was doing the Psych K session, because I was on a mission to find how to get my mind to be able to mold to what I want it to be, to have the thoughts that I want to have. And I know that there's people probably that are listening here that want to rewire their mind, want to be able to, yes, okay, want to be able to manifest things faster, or manifest period. But you're just like, I just keep having these thoughts, like they won't go away. And that's exactly where I was for a long time. And I just thought that's the way that my mind worked. And it's just like, it's going to be hard, but it's not going to be impossible, and I'm going to be able to do it. But now that I've done that session, the intrusive thoughts, and that's exactly what they were, the thoughts that keep coming up, like if it's, say, let's just say abundance, for example, if I'm just like doing affirmations about abundance, those intrusive thoughts come right in after those affirmations, like, you'll never have this, this is ridiculous, all the negative things. And I'm just giving an example. So once I did the session with him, those thoughts, they're not there. So I'm like, okay, I guess this is what a healthy brain looks like. So I don't know if anyone else can relate to this with the trauma brain, that you have these intrusive thoughts, you have this nervousness that something bad is always going to happen, and it makes it difficult for you to trust anything, whether it's another person, trusting a job, trusting that money will come to you, trusting anything positive. That has been my brain for a really long time, and I thought that that's just the way that it was. I relate to this. My anxiety and worry has gone away. So love wins always. How has your anxiety gone away? I can totally relate. Yes. So now that that's gone, I'm like, so these possibilities are so much easier when you're not in the fight or flight situation. I probably have like one worry a day. Joe, is that a good thing or a bad thing, though? You only have one worry a day. I wish more mental health professionals understood this. I completely relate, and it's a daily practice to work on it. Yes, so I've been really like going out of my mind the past couple weeks. I'm like, I want to be able to master this manifestation. Like, I was obsessing over it. And that's also another part of an unhealthy mind, is obsessive thoughts. But my thoughts have my mind has calmed down to such a degree that like I feel a little lost in my head. I'm just like, hey, wait, isn't there supposed to be a lot of worrying happening here? Like, what do I do with all this extra time that I don't have the worry? And now it's just like having a trust within myself. Whereas when I was dealing with, I guess, the trauma brain, there was no trust in myself. There was definitely no trust in other people. So it's very weird to shift from one extreme to the other. And when we come from a sound mind, like, our whole life changes. So while I've been fighting myself for months, where I'm just like, why is this so hard? Like, and of course, when you say this, that manifested, it's hard. But it really was like more of a struggle than I believe that it should have been. Because I'm just like, how can people possibly rewire their minds? Like, how could you possibly rewire your subconscious mind? Like, this is so impossible. And it really felt like an impossibility when you're coming from a trauma brain. And I don't know why, I've been feeling like this for so long. It just felt like this was normal, right? This explains so much. Had one major concussion and 2 minor ones. I need help like that. I can't make any decisions and I have some big ones to make. Do you recommend this? Okay, so the healer is pinned at the bottom. If you want to reach out to him, you can. I told him, I said, listen, like, your work, like, you're so gifted. And I literally just happened to find him. We were already friends on Facebook. I had no idea that I was even friends with this person. I happened to see his picture. I was like, wow, this guy is beautiful and he radiates so much light. Like, who is this person? And I just started to read stuff on his page and they're like, he's a healer, and just all this stuff that I totally related to. And I was just like, I need to do this. I need to do this. For whatever reason, my intuition was like, reach out to this man. And I did. And even with decision making, he's like, you don't have clarity. He's like, you don't have any clarity. Like, and we got down to the exact thing that I want in my life. And I was like, yeah, like, it just, everything just kind of meshed together and made sense. Can't make any decisions. That's me. What in the, okay, that's a good thing, Joe. I'm glad. EMDR meditation and crystals have made me so centered, even though I am going through a very chaotic time. Yeah, so EMDR too. I was talking about the healer, but also EMDR. EMDR helped me tremendously. And it wasn't reliving any trauma. It's literally eye movement stuff. And doing like a lot of, I remember I had to repeat a word, whatever the word was that I related most to, like, within the trauma stuff. It was a very interesting thing, very easy. So if you're interested in that and bringing yourself back to centeredness, I would say EMDR is really amazing. This healer does amazing work too. It just depends on what you relate to, what resonates with you. I'm into all kind of crazy shit, so I like to try everything. I'm going through the same thing. I love Abraham Hicks's videos and listen whenever I need to reset and realign. Ryla says, just hit my 1-year mark of doing EMDR. So far, it hasn't worked. Wow, you must have a lot going on. Because it definitely helped me. But again, it's not going to help everybody. Everyone is going to have a different method that they relate to. Ryla, I would say reach out to this healer and talk to him and see if he can help you. I'm telling you, after one session, my sister actually just did a session with him yesterday, and her session was completely different than mine. Completely different than mine. So he works just intuitively. He's like, what do you want to get out of this? Like, what? And it had nothing to do with my brain. He was like, what do you want out of this session? Like, what do you? And I was like, I don't remember what I told him. I said that I wanted, like, clarity, and that I need to work on all the emotional trauma stuff. Whatever it is from my childhood, I told him, I said, I want it out. I want it out of my body. It's hindering my progress and everything that I do. And that's where I thought that stuck energy was. I thought it was from the predictive programming, or not predictive, but the programming from my childhood and the consciousness of that. But apparently, aside from that, it was all the trauma brain that I didn't even realize that I was really suffering from. So that was super crazy to experience. Somatic experiencing if EMDR. Thank you for that recommendation. I've never done the somatic thing. What is EMDR? EMDR is eye movement desensitization repetition. So it is EMDR. They use it for a lot of people with PTSD, people that have had traumatic experiences. And again, EMDR is eye movement. And it desensitizes whatever neural pathways. It helps to bring the mind back into balance, and it helps to reset the nervous system so that you could come back to that calm state. Because a lot of people that do experience PTSD, and I think a lot of people from this whole pandemic have PTSD and they don't even know, because you don't know. It's not like your brain's like, hey, you have PTSD. It's just like your mind isn't functioning in the way that it should anymore. And maybe you don't even realize it because it's just a small shift and you're just like, oh, it's just the way that I am. People could be dealing with PTSD for years and not even realize that is the root of their suffering. So EMDR helps to reset the central nervous system. I wouldn't know how my brain would be without trauma. Would love to try these methods. Most of us don't. But but I'm glad that you recognize that you have the trauma, because I didn't. When I was going through the traumatic experience 3 years ago, I knew that I was like wrecked. And after I had relief, I was like, oh, I feel so much better. But I could have probably done a lot more sessions, and I didn't realize that I needed them. And here it is 3 years down the line. I'm just like, after I did that session with him on Monday, I'm just like, now I understand why I was so reactive to different situations for no good reason. It's like, this is not a normal response to things, to constantly be in fear of if this happens or if this happens or if this happens. And nothing to do with like the pandemic or any of that shit. Like, I was fearless with that, but just protecting my emotions, there was some really like unrealistic expectations of people that would come into my life that I would have of them, because my brain was not working properly. And now that I have shifted out of that, I'm just like, oh, now I see it very clearly why I had these reactions, because I was in the trauma brain mode and I didn't even realize it. EMDR worked fantastic for me to release anger and PTSD. So it just all depends. It all depends on what you relate to. Rewiring your neuroplasticity, learning new language, traveling and making artworks, even playing video games helps. Thank you, Mike. Loving the conversation. How do you do EMDR and where do you do that? So a practitioner, you have to do it with a practitioner. I don't know if you could do it on yourself. I don't know if there's like a YouTube video that they're just like holding their fingers out. It's just like different directions and eye movement stuff that somehow, with repetition, with using different wording and things, from what I remember from my session, that's how it reprograms. I don't know if it brings your mind into a different frequency to be able to reprogram like what's going on so that your nervous system is more calm. So I see a lot of people like relating to this trauma brain thing. And like I said, most people probably don't even realize that you have a trauma brain. We live with it for so long, we think that it's normal. We think that it's just the way, well, I just grew up this way and this is how it is. But when you're able to remove yourself from that state of being, your whole fucking everything changes. I literally had one session with this guy. After the session on Monday, it's like I jumped out of this body and into a different one. And I kid you not, how much relief I got. I had no idea what to expect. Like I said, my sister just did a session with him yesterday. Hers was completely different. Like, wasn't even on the same scale. He just goes intuitively by what you need. And for whatever reason, he was like, your mind has, like, what is going on in this mind? I'm energetically pulling things out of your mind. And some people don't believe in this shit. But guess what, everybody? We are energetic beings. So if we are made of energy, we have to take care of the energetic body as well as the physical body. I hope that's easy to understand, because that's realistically what we are. Like, without the energy of our soul in our body collapses and then eventually becomes a part of the earth again. So that energy in there, when you have traumatic things happen to you, say you have a physical traumatic thing happen to you, energetically you hold on to those things. So that's still a living electrical entity that's inside of you somewhere. So why do you think things manifest into tumors, into illnesses, into traumatic brain stuff, into PTSD? Because the energy is still alive within you. And if you don't remove that stuck energy, eventually we become sick. John, hi. You better come live with me this week. Mind blowing. This makes so much sense. So when you move that energy, that stuck energy, especially out of the brain, you start to operate on a whole different level. And there's people in here that know me really well that could probably say, like, yes, I've seen why she has been, you just woke up. I know, it's okay. We'll go live later or at a different time. But I'm talking about brain trauma stuff. When you're in those modes and we don't realize this, we react from a place that is not a normal, centralized, calm system. But the crazy thing is most of us don't even realize that this is what we're going through. So again, I'm just going to go into, so when you have an overstimulated amygdala, it's responsible, the amygdala is responsible for survival-related threat identification plus tagging memories with emotion. After trauma, the amygdala can get caught up in a highly alert and activated loop during which it looks for and perceives threat everywhere. I know a lot of people that literally perceive everything as a threat, and you wonder why. Like, what is wrong with this person? Like, that was a weird reaction to a situation that did not warrant that reaction. Most people are not even aware that they have a trauma brain. When we study trauma, when we study a trauma brain, we very, very can easily target whether it's ourselves or some other person that we know that we're like, holy shit, this makes total sense. And there's so many very, very easy ways to overcome this. But you have to first have the awareness that you actually have or suffer from what's known as trauma brain. And this could hinder your manifestations tremendously, because that's been me for the last, I've been taking this seriously for like the last year, but like really psychotic about it for the past 6 months. I was just always wondering why I could never shut my brain off. Why do I keep having these intrusive thoughts? Like I said, the lithium orotate helped me tremendously with the thoughts, but they would still push through. They would still slip under the rug and be like, hey, I'm still here. They'd be like coming under the door like, hey, remember me? Like, this is the thought that we're going to be playing with all day. Until I got out of this in the situation on Monday. And again, if you have a brain that doesn't work properly, you're not going to be able to manifest in the manner that you should and as easily as you should, because you're having these intrusive thoughts that do stem from a trauma, or that are magnifying those thoughts, and you have no control over it. So if you have these thoughts that are magnetized, that are negative, that in a normal brain situation would not be so intrusive, you'd be able to manifest a lot easier, because what do we know? That what the universe gives us what we are, not what we want. So if I am the person that constantly believes something bad is always going to happen, or that I'm never going to get what I want, or that abundance is not easy to get, or manifestation is not easy, and you have these other intrusive thoughts because you're not coming from a normal sound mind, your manifestations are going to be impossible, because that is your deeply rooted belief system. And if your deeply rooted belief system is a result of also trauma, aside from the childhood programming, you're going to probably be shit out of luck. And at least that's how I have lived this for the past 6 months, because I'm like, when I want to learn about something, I obsess. And is that normal? No. Is it, maybe people could say, is that passion? Sure. But my passion is obsession. So it gets a little unhealthy. So this was becoming very unhealthy for me. And I just happened to find this person that was able to, this hinders everything. I know someone that is suffering this from sure. Thank you for sharing this. I know for a fact that this is what has been hindering me. And now that I have had this really successful, and I told John, I was telling you about this, this insane energetic healing session that, oh shit, totally thought that was normal. Can't find him. The conscious catalyst, that's him there. If you can't find him, just send me a DM and I will give you his email. Wait, what was I just saying? Oh shit, totally thought that was normal. So going back to that, most of us probably live in this trauma state because we don't have the awareness of it. And then maybe conversation like this, or you overhear somebody talking, you're like, oh my God, wow, that's exactly how I feel. So if you feel that you relate to this, look into trauma brain, look into healing modalities, look into things that could really help you, because like I said, especially the last 3 years, there's so many people that were gripped by fear around their throat and just were in the mind state that something bad's going to happen. This is going to be the end of the world. What if I can't pay my bills? I just lost my business. All these things are traumatic. If you had a business and you put your heart and soul into it, and this pandemic took that away from you, that is so traumatic. Like, what am I going to do? How am I going to support my family? All these things, all these worries, all these things that are traumatic to us. Fear, waking up in fear, like, how am I going to pay my bills? Oh my God, I'm going to lose my house. Those are all things that can cause a trauma brain. It doesn't have to be something as significant as a car crash or a death or anything like that. It could be a number of things. It could be a breakup. It could be so many different things that can cause a trauma brain, and we don't realize this because we don't see that as quote unquote trauma. Trauma to us is like severe, crazy injury that would be, what's the word? I don't know. I can't think right now. But that would kind of validate the reasoning for you having a trauma brain. I am outside of Philadelphia. I just want to see if I missed any comments. Okay, so, wow, time flies. And I was talking about the healing process of it. A lot of people do hypnosis. There's different forms of hypnosis that can help with trauma brain. But going back to that, some people just don't believe that their situation is significant enough to cause trauma brain or to cause you PTSD. Like, it's not like I was in, I went overseas and I was in a war. Okay, PTSD for sure. But that's not always, it doesn't always have to be so extreme that this is why I have PTSD. Because when you hear PTSD, a lot of times you think of people that were in some kind of war, some kind of really, really traumatic situation or instance, sexual abuse, any of those things. It doesn't have to be any of those things to be so significant to give you brain trauma or to give you that trauma brain. So once you can come from, and this is just so new for me, when I did the EMDR therapy 3 years ago, I thought that I was better then. And I was like, wow, this is great. But I really wasn't. I was still living in this survival mode, but I didn't even realize that that's what it was. So once we can realize or recognize or even maybe research like what it means to have a trauma brain, that we can understand like that maybe I am suffering from this too. And that maybe I need to start looking into things to help myself because I want to live the most expansive life that I can. And when your system is not functioning properly, whether it is a physical element that you're dealing with or mental or energetical, if we have energy traps and things going on in our body, eventually, yes, it's going to manifest into something physical. But when we don't even recognize that that's a real thing, how could we care for something or change or shift something if we don't even know that that is a possibility in life? So after we suffer from trauma that is stuck energy, can it manifest into a lump on your arm or anything? Sure. Maybe it doesn't ever manifest into something physical, but that energy that is stuck in your body can be dysregulating so many things in your life. And the mind is the most powerful one. Reiki, I don't know. I've never done Reiki regarding this. There is hypnosis that they mention. There is EMDR therapy that I've done that they mention, and I've done the energy work that really, really helps. I have multiple brain trauma. Unfortunately, anything that's a bad experience happens to me, it creates trauma. Anything that's bad experience happens to me. Can you elaborate on that a little bit? Okay, Reiki is amazing. It's life-changing. So I'm not sure if it works for brain stuff, but if you know that it does, like, please put it in the comment section. I guess she blocked me or ignores me. I didn't see any of your other comments. I did not see one other comment. Most important is you let it go. So it's very important to let it go. But when you do have a trauma brain, There is no letting go. You're holding on to that trauma for dear life. And it's not because you want to. It's because your mind is not in a centered place to be able to let or allow something to go. Joe, Reiki is amazing. Okay, so someone else said Psych K is super helpful. So definitely Psych K has helped me shift. I'm going to do another session probably next week. It's definitely helped me shift. But this was so game-changing for me in one session. Like, I just don't even know how to explain it other than having stuck energy in my brain that was removed. And not most people, but a lot of people are like, I don't believe in that. Like, it's all in your head and all this other stuff. But like I said, we are energetic and electrical beings. So when you have stuff in there, that electricity is constantly running through your body at all times, and it's causing reactions that wouldn't normally take place if you were coming from a sound mind and a healthy mind, or a healthy functioning mind. And I thought that I was, and now that I had this relief, like, I'm not anymore. Also, UT therapy is amazing for mental correcting. Are you talking about emotion code? No. Oh, thank you for saying that. Emotion code is another one that's tremendous. What session? Allison, I love you. I need to speak with you. Allison, this is a topic that you would really love, because it's talk about trauma brain. Let's talk about trauma brain, Allison. And how to overcome it. Allison, I got to tell you about this healer. He's tagged down there, but when I talk to you, I'll tell you about the session. That it was insane. Insane. I could see it escaping me. My head is buzzing and I have goosebumps speaking on it. Exactly. The trauma takes over normal thinking. Oh, emotion code. Sorry. Got distracted. So emotion code healing is also really good at relieving trauma and stuck energies, which is exactly what we're talking about. So I just totally forgot that. I love you too. The emotion code healing is also another healing modality that does not have you bring up the memories, does not have you talk about it. The emotion code is another energetic exchange where it literally pulls up. It's this little device. You talk for like 10 seconds, and then it literally, from your tone, from the tones in your voice, it pulls up all these different things. And I'm probably not explaining it exactly right. If Lindsay was on here, she could explain it because she does it. But when you do the emotion code, it pulls up emotions that are stuck energies from any age, whether it was in the womb or when you were 10 years old or when you were 15 years old or 22 years old. When I did my session with Lindsay initially, something came up. Let's just say it was shame at 15. You can probably pinpoint the exact moment of what it is that she's talking about. And they're very, very specific. So you can, and everybody's session obviously is very different. There are some things that come up on, your father's side of the family or your mother's side of the family. But after you do the emotion code session, she's able to clear out those energies. So you feel so much lighter. You do feel relief. So there's a lot of different healing modalities out there that I think most people don't know of, because immediately when you're feeling bad, you go to a doctor and, you're like, this is hurting me. This is hurting me. Well, here you go. Here's a prescription. That doesn't fix the fact that you have stuck emotions, stuck traumas, stuck energies in your body. By sitting there and swallowing and taking a pill, that's not going to take away the things that happen to you. Is it going to numb you? Absolutely. Is it going to mess up your other organs? Possibly. Is it going to make things worse in your head? That happened to me. Yeah. Joe, I know. Are you talking about, I think UT, are you talking about urine therapy? Wish you good luck, USA, on the World Cup. I didn't even know that was happening. Any of these healers able to have sessions virtual? Yes. So the guy that I pinned, he's in Canada, and I'm obviously not in Canada. That's all he does is remote sessions, and he actually doesn't even do it on Zoom. He does it on the phone. So when I did the session with him, we did all this like grounding stuff. Like he does like a meditation in the beginning to get you like really grounded and relaxed. And he said, why are all these trees? What is with all these trees? He's like, do you live around a place with a lot of trees? Why do I keep seeing all these trees? You're around all these trees. What is this? He said, no, they're not near your house. He said, there's a park that you go to that's near your house. I said, I literally just came from that park that you're talking about before we got on the phone call. He's like, yeah, I know, you go there all the time. So I was like, actually, I do. I go there. He's like, the trees are very calming for you. He was like, you communicate with the trees. I didn't really look at it like that. But from when I was little, I would go to a place that had a lot of grass or a lot of trees. And it was just like very expansive, I think, because it made me feel free when I felt so trapped within myself and especially within my mind. When I saw a kaleidoscope of color when my eyes were closed, it was the most beautiful, infinite peace I've ever experienced. I love this. So when you find different people or different healers that can really... Joey, it's too early for that conversation. We're talking about trauma brain and stuff, which actually I would love to have a conversation with you about, since, you know, you are like a psychotherapist or psychiatrist. I was talking about an energy healing session, so I want to talk to you about that too, Joey. So we should definitely go live about that and talk about it. So after I did the session, like I was saying, like he was asking me about these trees and all these things. So there are people that can literally tap into your energetic channels and feel different things. I can do that. I don't know how I do it, but people that I can tap into anybody really, but I don't want to because it's exhausting. Not right now. I'm going to wrap up this live in a second because it's already like 40 minutes, but I hope that it was helpful to just talk about what it's like to have a trauma brain, because I think a lot of people suffer from it. And Joe Yee, if you're still in here, like I want to talk about that with you, because I truly believe that a lot of people suffer from a trauma brain, but they don't even know what it is to understand that that's what is happening to them. So when you have intrusive thoughts, repetitive thoughts, can't shut off your mind, you have a certain amount of nervousness all the time, and you react to things in a way that doesn't warrant that type of reaction, whether it's inside or outside, and you have, basically like you're reacting to things that are just unrealistic to what the situation is, that people suffer from trauma brain without knowing it. And if we could bring ourselves back to that balanced state, which is, like I always talk about, one of my main goals in life is to help people rebalance themselves, that we would see the world from a very different lens, and that we would be able to open up so many things that we haven't been able to, because we are in a different mindset than a healthy mind would be, to be able to react to certain things. Doctors definitely don't learn about trauma brain, sadly. Definitely helpful. Thanks so much for always sharing your evolution. And I truly believe that, like, I have all these crazy things happen to me so that I can share them with other people and hope that I can help other people with this, because there's so many people that don't like to share things because they fear of what other people are going to say about them or think about them. But, like, we're all humans in this bitch. Like, we're all humans, so we're all having a similar human experience. And the more that we talk about the things that we go through, the more you're going to help somebody else. So I just feel that they're just insanely important, especially when it comes to being able to have the life that you want. But how can you be able to have the life that you want if you're trying to manifest something from an imbalanced state of mind? How can you possibly manifest what you want that is going to be from a balanced state? So if you don't know that you're in an imbalanced state, how could you manifest something being imbalanced? That makes sense to me. I don't know if that makes sense to anybody else, but we can't possibly, and it's just so much more clear after my session that I did on Monday, that it's so much more clear that you can't get what you want when you're not in the right frame of mind to get it in the first place. Let's just see if I missed any comments. I'm writing music as I watch this. Joe, I love you. You're a prodigy child, and I love you. I have a hard time making friends. I always get rejected by people, and now I'm scared to be social because it always leads to rejection. So I have no friends and I'm 30. Okay, so I just wanted to dissect that for a second. There's the I amness. And on the last live on Monday, we talked about the I amness. What is your I amness? What I amness lives you? So going back to being in an imbalanced state. So if for you're scared to be social because it always leads to rejection, just that in itself is something that can create trauma to you, can create a traumatic brain reaction. It's possible that and it is very possible that you could have had other things happen to you before that cause more of that that irrational fear because your mind isn't functioning properly. So now you have an even more irrational outlook on a situation because your mind is not coming from a balanced state to say, oh, you know what, these people, they're just not my people, but I am attracting my tribe. So your I amness now is I am scared, I am fearful. So if that is the emotion or the affirmation that lives you, and you're continuing to come from an imbalanced state, it's going to be very difficult to get out of that. So if you come from a healthy mind, or if you're able to start rebalancing your mind to come back into a balanced state, you're just going to look at it and it's not going to affect you. It's not going to have the same effect on you as it did when you were in that traumatic state of mind. So when you get back into balance, you're going to look at something and it's not even going to have any effect on you. You're not going to say, oh my God, this is horrible, like I'll never have friends or anything like that. You're going to say, I don't like these people anyway. I am attracting the most amazing friends. I am always out. I'm always having a fun time. It's hard to refocus the brain, and it's hard to manifest from a place of imbalance. So once we get back into that balanced state, we're going to see things in a whole different light. But the first thing that you can do is start with your I amness. What is your I amness? I'm not chosen. I'm not loved. I'm not wanted. If that is your I am is to me the most powerful statement you can ever make. I was reading from this manifestation coach that said, when you want to balance yourself, start to do some breath work. Just do deep breaths in, deep breaths out. Your ujjayi breath is what I call it. And once you feel a little bit relaxed, over and over again, I am, without the affirmation behind it. Just get into somewhat of a meditative state. I am. And when you're in that relaxed state, once you get there, say the affirmations to yourself. So Buddha just said, I am connected to all. Imagine that, how simple of an affirmation that is. I am connected to all. So if I am connected to all people will gravitate towards me. We're all like-minded things. I am connected to all like-minded people. You can even get very, very, very specific. I am connected to people that resonate with the same things that I resonate with. Whatever your I amness is what you're going to live. So if we're constantly saying, I am scared, I'm afraid, that's our I amness. So we live that and then we become it. We live it in here and then we become it in the 3D reality. Thank you, Joe. Feeling is the key. Or feeling is the secret, rather. You can feel the affirmations work as you say it. So visualize it in your mind. What is it like for you to be out with people all the time? What is it like for you to be social? And work on your I amness every day. Whenever you have a negative thought come up, replace it. But again, it's so much more difficult when you're coming from a mind that is not balanced. And I can say that with certainty. As of Monday, I didn't realize that I was dealing with this. I didn't realize that this trauma brain was still affecting me tremendously until it no longer is existent in my mind. So now that I can see things from so much clearer, it's like those intrusive thoughts don't have power over me anymore. So let's just first understand, are we coming from a centered and balanced place to be able to bring in the I amness that we want to be? To be. Because we could say words all day and they don't mean shit. But once you get into a meditative state and you start to really, really visualize the things that you want, do your affirmations, it starts to become real in the mind. And again, the mind doesn't know if it's a perceived thought or if it actually happened. So your mind is actually experiencing what it is that you're thinking. So if you're experiencing over and over again something bad that happened, your mind doesn't know if it's really happening right now, or if it has happened already, or if it hasn't happened. How many sessions do you have to have with him? I had one session with this man. If I never had another session with him again, like, I am a completely different person. My lower back pain, I know that most of you have heard me complain about this. My patches are miraculous. I have 2 of them on right now. They help significantly with my pain. But there was across my back, I could not even like do hip circles. I know that's weird, but as a dancer, like, I could not even move my hips without literally feeling like eventually my whole lower back was just going to shatter. He said, what is going on? Why do you have all this pain in your body? What is the pain in your body? And I was like, where do you want to start? You want to start with my elbow, my hip flexors, my hamstring, my lower back, my upper back? Where do you want to go? He's like, well, what is the worst for you? And I said, my lower back. He said, I'll take care of that. No problem. Go to the position that hurts the most. So whenever I do an up dog, that's when it hurts the most. He was like, stay in that position. I'll send some energy to it. Like, let me work on this. So he's like, how do you feel? I was like moving my hips around and like trying to arch my back. And I was like, it feels like it's not there. He's like, is it really not there? Or is it like somewhat not there? I said, I still feel like a little bit in my lower back. He's like, all right, let me do this. You have to DM him. He's like so old school. Like, you have to, he doesn't even have a website. But let me, like, guys, you know that I don't bullshit about things. Like, he does remotely. He's in Canada and I'm not in Canada. I cannot express to you the difference that this person has made in 1 hour session that I did with him. I think they might be 90-minute sessions, but whatever, I don't know, whatever. So that pain in my lower back, and I've talked about this on many of my lives for the last several weeks, I have not been able to sleep, and I've never had this kind of lower back pain before. I've had low back pain since I was 13 years old, but I have never felt it like this. We're not going to get into that because I'll explain that when I'm on with Johnny. I want Johnny to explain living in 3D versus 5D. Have you pinpointed what the pain represents in different parts of your body? When I did the Psych K session, she told me what the low back one was, and I forget. I want to book with him right now. Just honestly, just send him a DM. He is the coolest person ever. He's like my best friend. I'm like, hi, what are you doing? I talk to him like a lot now. And it's literally, I started talking to him on Sunday night, and now we just kind of talk all the time. And I just will sing his praises forever because I'm just astonished. And he actually teaches this energy work too. He's like, if you want to learn, like, you know, I have people that I teach every week. So that's really interesting too. He is my new bestie, Joe. I forget what I was just saying before this. Low back pain. Yeah, so my low back pain is not there. And I cannot explain to you. I don't know. All I can say is energetically he did that. I can't explain it in any other way than that. Where is, I think it's on page 18. Hold on. I just want to, before we wrap up, this is a really good one. Not feeling supported. Thank you. Lower back, not feeling supported. Accurate. Not supported by like my community here, but just whatever. Okay, so this is really powerful. When I read this, and this is from The Power of Awareness by Nevillegoddard. You must stop spending your thoughts, time, and money. Everything in life must be an investment. To spend is to waste, to squander, to lay out without return. To invest is to lay out for a purpose from which profit is expected. This revelation of my wife is about the most important of the moment, is about the transformation of the moment. It is only what is done now that counts. Whenever we assume the feeling of being what we want to be, we are investing that. So whatever feeling runs us, we are investing in that feeling. You must stop spending your thoughts, time, and money. Everything in life must be an investment. Are your thoughts an investment to what it is that you want? Or are you wasting your thoughts like you're wasting money? You don't really need to buy this shirt, but you want it anyway. Being wasteful. If in your mind you're constantly saying, I'm not worthy, like, I'll never be able to pay this bill, no one likes me, whatever it is that runs you, I'm never chosen. If you're not investing, then you're wasting. So we can use our thoughts to invest because what we think we become, or we can use our thoughts to continue to live in the poverty cycle. And that's not an investment. Living life intentionally. Do the patches heal bad discs? Yes, the patches will help tremendously with disc stuff. Mel, hi! That quote is like my favorite. I don't know what province he's in. I forget. No, he's in Edmonton. I think he's in Edmonton. The last thing that I'm going to say, because I'm almost on here an hour. This is my longest one. A double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. That is from James 1:8. So there's a lot of Bible references in these books, which I really like. A double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. Well, what the hell does that mean? You cannot live in two states of consciousness at once. A double-minded. So if you are trying to manifest something great and like, I had this amazing life, and then you have these other dominant thoughts that say you'll never have this, you suck at life, life never works out for you, you're always unhealthy, you'll never have money. You can't live in two states at the same time. There's one that's going to be dominant. And usually the dominant one is the one that's been programmed since our childhood. That is the dominant thought, which is the dominating thought that's going to run your life. A double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. So therefore, when you know what you want, you must deliberately focus your attention on the feeling of your wish fulfilled until that feeling fills the mind and crowds all other ideas out of consciousness. Now, I'm reading this before I had this healing session, and I'm like, it's easier said than done. Like, how could you sit there and say, fill your mind, with all the ideas that you want, and it will crowd out all the other ideas out of your consciousness. When you're coming from a trauma brain, when you're coming from an unhealthy brain state, an imbalanced brain state, it's impossible. But now that I'm in this balanced state, I'm just like, I'm just not going to think this anymore. And the thought leaves me. Whereas before, I could try my hardest to the point of almost insanity that I'm just like, why can't I do this? Why can't I do this? I never thought that it was because of a trauma brain. I just thought that maybe my mind is just stronger. Maybe, I've just been so programmed with these traumatic things that happened from when I was a kid. It's just going to take so much longer for me. But it was literally like the tiniest shifts were happening. But I'm like, why is this so difficult for me? Until I did this healing session. And again, there's multiple ways to do this. But until I really understood that, like, I was not in a balanced state of mind for years. And now that I have this state of balance, I'm like, oh my God. This is what has been my problem this whole time. It wasn't because I've had more, harder times than other people, or that my trauma must be just this or that, and it's just going to take me longer. It's because I've been living with a trauma brain. And for anybody that's just joining, please look up trauma brain, because there's so many people that suffer from it. And it's like we can't get the life that we want when we come from a place of trauma. And trauma doesn't have to be, I was hit by a car, or I watched somebody die, or I was in a war, or those things are very traumatic that can cause PTSD. But there are other things like this pandemic that just happened, that people have been living in such a state of fear that it cause the mind, and it literally changes the brain, but you can change it back. After all the research that I've done, when you look at PTSD and trauma brain, your brain literally changes, but it can change back. So I've been on almost an hour, actually an hour. So I want to wrap it up because I'm going to post this this live, because I think it'll be helpful, super helpful for people that don't even realize the things that are going on within the mind to be able to make changes in ourselves. So reverse it with positive thoughts. So I intended this was super helpful. The neuroplasticity, thank you. TMS for trauma brain. I don't know what TMS is. Thank you all for listening. I appreciate every single one of you, and I'm glad that we have had these discussions, because they not only help other people, they actually help me too to get this shit out of my system. Crystal, check out Real Rob Worgan. I feel like you would love the trauma work. Perfect. Thank you so much for that. Sending you guys so much love. I'm just so glad that I'm able to just feel balanced in my mind. Because as balanced as I think that I am, when I actually do more work, it just goes to show me how imbalanced or how balanced I wasn't. So life is a process, life is a journey, and I'm happy to just be on it with everybody. And I'm going to repost this. Thank you for always listening. Have an amazing day. I love all of you. Dr. Diggity, I love it. Have an amazing, amazing, and wonderful day. Sending everybody so much love.